Good afternoon. It's Dr. Mike Logan. This is 19 July 2024. This is Philosophy 105, Ethics of Nationhood. It's also Ethics 105 at Lehigh University, second summer session 2024. I'm going to talk about, in a short space, about 12 minutes or so, I'm going to try to talk about the main takeaways from Alexis de Tocqueville's Democracy in America. And of course, the um, glossary of terms is up on course site, and you can look at all the terms and the exact definitions there in writing terms like sovereignty and union, confederation, high federal court, so forth. Um, but I'm just going to go over and just sort of underscore a couple of things in a short space and point to and remark on um, just one or two passages in the text. Now, keep in mind that the remarks that I make, you don't have to necessarily agree with them or remember what they are, or be able to regurgitate them later in any way. What you need to know to do well in this class is on the glossary of terms. If you just know those terms and know how to, you'll know the definitions of them, you can do well on the exams, and that's, the way to succeed in the course. But I will nonetheless be sharing with you some of the stuff that I have to um, suggest a kind of cumulative effect of the readings that we're doing as we go. So yes, connecting what we're reading now with Hobbes and with Weird. Um, remembering the concepts of jus naturale, natural rights, what we have the liberty to do, what nature gives us the liberty to do, regardless of what anybody else says, right? It's our natural right to go, run amok and do whatever we want. That's natural liberty. Um, but of course, we're bothering other people, then we might run into some issues with that, and that's why we end up with social contracts. So um, there's that, and also from Hobbes, we have the concept of Leviathan, which is a great number of people behaving the same way as each other, right? Like the book uh, image suggests, and also as Foresight image suggests too. There's an image on that I posted for next week on course site that um, shows a graphic that was made from metadata that of something that's really not visible unless you're talking about millions and millions of people. And so they took millions and millions of Twitter accounts, or maybe not millions of millions, but at least a 500,000 Twitter accounts, and they analyzed the data along political messaging lines having to do with guns and civil unions and other moral issues, political moral issues. And so, after looking at a really large amount of data, they were able to see certain divisions in the way people were behaving and connecting with each other in social media. And that's what the image of the red and blue things is. Has nothing to do with anything else that's red and blue. It's just two different groups who are in their own echo chambers, if you will, and completely connected to each other and only ephemerally connected in the middle. And some of those accounts are connecting in the middle, of course. So there are these sort of tendrils reaching into the middle. Very few of them actually connecting, though everybody mostly staying in their camps, if you will. Um, Anyway, to Tocqueville, the main terms are sovereignty, which means a state being able to make its own rules and do it. Well, it's kind of like a person keeping their jus naturale, right? A state wants to keep its sovereignty and its ability to make its own rules, make its own tax laws, make its own business laws, make its own liquor laws, make its own gun laws, um, and all those things. Confederation is a word for this exceptional power that um, doesn't belong to any one state and oversees the laws that pertain to all the states, right? Those laws are the thing that make a social contract, if you will, between the states. So a confederation is kind of like a social contract between states. I'm gonna try to find a whiteboard that I was just looking at. Yeah, yeah. So you can see this now. I have here states on the top and the Confederation on the bottom. Now, might actually be better to take Confederation and put that on the top because, excuse me, um, because what Hobbes says is that the Confederation is kind of like a civil. What Hobbes says is about the civil power is that line's not working on it. The civil power oversees the states, right? So if and I don't mean to be confusing, but analogously, we might say that you know if states have liberty, jus naturale, then the Confederation is something like a social contract between the states, right? So they give up a little bit of their right to just do whatever they want in order to have peace with the adjacent nations. Now, according to Tocqueville, um, I'm sorry, I said adjacent nations. I meant adjacent countries, adjacent states. Those are synonymous. State and country are synonymous. Um, the social contract that what we're calling this social contract, confederation, is is the exceptional power, right? That's an exceptional power. It doesn't usually operate. It only operates in exceptional circumstances. The rule, the rule is state power, right? The rule is state power, just like the rule is jus naturale in the state in the social contract. Most of the time in a social contract, the people who are participating in that Hobbesian social contract, if we think about individuals, um, they want to keep their jus naturale, their ability to do whatever they want to do most of the time. They want to have their liberty most of the time. Just like states in the Confederation want to have their own laws and they want to have their own sovereignty and they want to have their liberty most of the time until there's some circumstances, some exceptional circumstances that bring into question power of the states and the possibility that a state exercising its sovereignty and its ability to do what it wants might threaten the union itself somehow, either by rubbing up against some other nations outside it or by rubbing up against other countries within their own federation. Um, but that's why you have a union so that none of the states will get that far out of line that they will mess things up for the other members of that union. Okay, so hoping to keep this short. So I just want to point out that a couple of important things that de Tocqueville said on the bottom of 58. He says, the result of everything that he talks about is that the political power becomes a matter of national prosperity. Okay, what he means by that is that um, it's healthy. It's a good thing that political power becomes a matter of national prosperity because then people have a real feeling for prosperity. If they feel like they're prosperous and they're doing well, they have real emotions about that. They'll have a real feeling for their home state, its laws, its organizations, its institutions, the whole world around them that's supporting their way of doing things or their way of doing business or their way of doing agriculture or being a farmer, being a businessman, being a teacher, being a tradesman, being a merchant, being whatever you are. if you're doing well, you'll have real heartfelt emotions for that home that you live in, that home state, right? Your country, your actual region that you live in. The union, you won't really have such um, true sort of heartfelt feelings for, because the union is an abstraction. It's really just a system. It's the union. It's not a great person or a king or a specific land or a specific flag or a specific set of customs or a religion that binds the people together. It's just a system that binds the states together, that protects everyone's liberty. The system, the union. Um, is nothing more, nothing less than that. But if it protects my liberty, I have a great feeling for that too. So I have a great feeling for my home state and liberty of me doing well with my liberty. And the thing that's protecting my liberty, this other thing, I also have a pretty great feeling for that too. So de Tocqueville says the real feelings that someone has for their state kind of get transferred to the union if people are doing well. And if we act on the principle that political power will be a matter, as he says, a matter of national prosperity, what he means really is that it's a matter of people being all about the money is not necessarily a bad thing. It's better than people being all about the nation. It's better than nationalism, because it's more real than that. And so de Tocqueville seems to be celebrating the state for it's a little vague, but he seems to be saying that as long as the union, the confederation that makes everybody safer, more powerful, and more prosperous gets served somehow, it doesn't matter. Um, um, but it seems to be the healthiest thing for people to preserve their state sovereignty and their feeling for their state and have a sort of indirect uh, patriotic feeling for the Union. He says that on page 59. In other words, it's more realistic to expect that citizens of the new American nation would be passionate about commerce and finances than to expect that they'd have a lot of feelings for their uh, their union, their nation as a whole. But like de Tocqueville says, if you can get them to serve the union through commercial incentives, then that's okay. That's fine. The union still gets served and people have real feelings for doing well in the world. And so it's a win-win for the citizens and for the nation. Okay, thank you for listening. You'll be hearing from me again soon. Have a nice weekend. Take care.